Hey all, and welcome back to Professor Layton and the Curious Village. In this part we're going to be making our way toward the dangerous looking tower itself. We can just sort of see the base of it there in the background right now. But this particular chapter is going to play out quite a bit differently to the last chapter, because to start with, it's a very short chapter, but also, and more importantly to the game itself, is whereas the last chapter was a bit of a slower chapter with a lot of build-up, this one is pretty much a rapid fire of puzzles. So to start off with, we've got Puzzle 72, Truth and Lies. And I've got to say, this artwork here is a little bit unsettling. I don't know if the idea of like having the animal masks is like them not showing the truth, not showing their true selves, given it is one of the work out the liars kind of puzzles. But it was the green penguin who was telling the truth. I don't know though, maybe I'm trying to read into meaning where there isn't meaning. I don't know if the penguin symbolises truth or whether they did just decide to pick some cute characters and go from there. This gentleman, Percy, we've seen him before, I recall, but his little trait here is that he's writing a mystery novel, and he seems to be taking inspiration from Professor Layton and Luke, and that's neat. Like, you're taking inspiration, that's one thing, but if you start tailing us a bit too much, we may have to just start asking for royalties. Just saying, like, if you're gonna take inspiration from someone's story, then you may want to fictionalize it a little bit, I don't know. But here is our good friend Rodney, who seems to be giving a bit of a veiled threat. I don't know if it's intended that way, but the way he's talking about, like, I decide who stays in the village and who leaves. Is that like, is he threatening to fucking deport us or some shit? Oh god, but this puzzle here, puzzle 73, how many squares? This is the kind of puzzle that I like, because this is one that you just look at the picture and try to figure it out. And there are 11 squares on here that you can make. And what you want to bear in mind is this isn't just the squares that are laid out to make the cross. There's also the squares that shape up diagonally. So you can get a couple more in just by going diagonal on the pinboard. Like there you can see in the demonstration there's the 4 smaller diagonal ones, and then on top of that there's the 2 bigger diagonal ones. So that, again, I nearly went to repeat my fucking think outside the box kind from the last part. Why do I keep fucking doing this? I have one job, and that's just to talk without being too much of a cringelord, but I can't even do that, apparently. Oh, God. But as with the last 2 puzzles, this is again going to keep the pace going up quite quickly. We're back with Raymond again after his little escapade into the far beyond. He's going to give us another puzzle right away. And that is one thing that I'll say is that I don't mind the slower pace throughout a lot of the chapters here, but to get a kind of refresher one like this where it's just puzzle after puzzle after puzzle, it is nice to kind of step on the pedal a little bit just to kind of plow through some of these. But this puzzle here, puzzle 93, Over the River. This is another one of these. It's a similar kind of concept to the ones early on that we had, but now it's added that extra level of complication in the Station Scarfman himself is there, as is a bit of cabbage. So this one you can do in 7 moves. I can't actually remember whether I got the most efficient run. I have a feeling I did, only because I was looking at a guide for this one. Because the ones where it's just like the wolves, and I think it was either sheep again beforehand, or it might have been chickens. But that one where it's just the two things going on, I could figure that one out. Whereas this one, it's got a little bit more going for it. And you got to bear in mind what you can leave with what else. You know, you don't want to leave your sheep there to get eaten by the wolf. Otherwise, you kind of defeat the point of doing a puzzle like this.
Critical thinking is the key to success.
But yeah, in terms of the pacing, I feel like for the most part, each of the different beats of this game kind of keeps to the pace it needs to. I will say this is in terms of how I'm doing things, because I'm covering all of the mandatory puzzles in the game, and I'm also doing all the other puzzles that appear in the main story. So it's not quite 100% run, because there are like some super hard ones that you unlock after the fact, but in terms of all the puzzles that you can encounter in the main game, I am showing them off. You don't have to do that. You can just do a handful of puzzles here and there, and as long as you meet the requirements at each of the roadblocks, then you are good to go. And I can't remember exactly how many you need to get into the final area, but it's not all that much, all things considered. But this puzzle here, puzzle 109, this is the laziest man on Earth. He's got plenty of mechanical devices to help him find everything in his room, except there's one place that he can't reach. And that is just under his chair. I'm going to drag the circle there in a second, but I distinctly remember this one. And again, it's one of the more unique kind of puzzles, so that's the sort of thing that sticks with me that little bit longer. There's this one, there's the one that where you had to find the monster's eye. These more visual kind of ones there, I feel like they're the ones that are gonna be ones that stick out to you after the fact, and the more memorable puzzles, if only because you're not likely to have seen this particular variety of puzzle anywhere else. Whereas stuff like the ones that move the wolves and the sheep across on a boat, you've seen a puzzle like that before. And same with the jugs, which are like the fucking, I think it's like the Hanoi rings or something, like the Tower of Hanoi, I think it is. It works in a similar kind of way to that, does the jug puzzle. But all of these puzzles, for the most part, are similar to more commonplace puzzles. So when you get the more artistic ones, then they are gonna have that extra little appeal to them, I guess. But I wonder what Prisotto's got to tell us today. What I do know is he's got puzzle 104 for us, a sweet treat. And okay, I kind of get it. All his puzzles are going to be food-based. Like, that is one of the more unfortunate character traits to become associated with just the food guy, I suppose. But this particular puzzle, it's another chocolate one. This guy sure does like his chocolate, which I too am very guilty of. But you've got to segment this so each of the almonds is in a different place in each segment. So in one it will be in the top piece, in another it will be in the second piece, and so on and so forth. It's not that difficult. You can just sort of divide it up in the L shapes like I did there, and it works. I feel like they probably could have made that a bit more complicated if they wanted to, but I think that works as a puzzle. It's not too difficult to piece together yourself. I like to imagine that this guy has just tried every single thing on the menu in Crouton's little cafe there, and that's why he's got such like diverse opinions on the different dishes there. Because this is in a small village like this, I feel like he's probably gonna become a bit known to all the villagers as the guy who sits there and eats a lot, and he probably is just in the cafe all day in Crouton's cafe, just like trying out meal after meal after meal. But this is kind of a new section. We haven't been this far back toward the tower as of yet. So we do get a little bit more scenery, and we also do get a fresh batch of hint coins, because there's usually a few assigned to each screen. So if you've gone to a new place, then it's worth just tapping around, seeing where there might be some more. But yet another puzzle here. This is Puzzle 119, Red and Blue. And this is a similar principle to the Apples and Oranges puzzle that we had in the last part. So you've got to swap the balls around, so the blue ones are on the left and the red ones are on the right. I am trying so hard not to make a joke about there being blue balls, but it's testing me. It's testing my fucking maturity right now. It is one of them things, like one of them very easy jokes, and I realise in this line of, I hesitate to say entertainment, but we do like our low-hanging fruit. Like, if you've ever watched a fucking Sonic 3 and Knuckles Let's Play, there's always a get blue balls joke. If you've watched a Sonic Adventure 2 Let's Play, there's a joke about how it looks like Sonic and Shadow are jerking off when they go super. It's like, if there's a very easy joke to make, one of us fuckers is gonna make it. But I swear, guys, this is my real serious adult job. I hope everyone's proud of me. And yeah, I do have to sort of pad time a little bit, because even when I have a guide, when it comes to these ones that are kind of hard to explain with a guide, sometimes I have to just read it, process what I've just read, then move it, then move on to the next part. Because if I get like a backlog of instructions, then I screw myself over, because by the time I've processed what the like third or fourth move I've got to make is, I've completely forgot the first one. And I don't know how common of a thing that is. I feel like to a certain degree that's me. That's something that I've always struggled with, just doubt in my own memory. It's something that even with very basic tasks that I've done hundreds of times before, I like to write myself notes, just because I don't have enough confidence in myself to remember what it is. And that kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because then, if I've told myself I won't remember what's going on, then I won't remember what's going on. And it can be just for basic bitch household tasks. Just like, I like to have a just little note to myself as to what to do. Again, I think that is partially an anxiety thing, but hey. When you have all these weird and wonderful quirks that I have, sometimes it's less about like just feeling sorry for yourself and more just trying to find practical solutions for your own shortcomings. And I like to think the whole leaving myself personal notes, as much as it sounds like something an incredibly insane person would do, it works for me. And again, straight away, we have another puzzle. This is Puzzle 117, Painting a Cube. And what you've got to do for this puzzle, if you've got to work out how many different arrangements there are where you could paint the cube in a way that no two sides that are touching have the same colour. And this one can be a bit of a trick in a way, depending on how your approach this is. Because I feel like what they're expecting you to do, and they'll show a drawing of it in the end card in a second. It seems like they're expecting you to just get the mapped out crushed state, where it's like the cross shape that you fold to make it like that. And when you lay it out like that, it looks like there are different approaches. But in reality, they're just doing the same thing. It's very much a case of you have a side painted one colour and the opposite side will also be that colour. So it is just one solution. It might look a bit different depending on how you unfold it, but it is just one possible outcome for that. Now that would get a lot more complex if you weren't using a six-sided shape. If you had a shape like maybe if you were trying to figure that out with a dodecahedron or something, and you're just there all day trying out all the possible combinations that you could do. But this character here, she is quite a fascinating one, and by that I mean Martha seems like a bit of an eccentric character. Her gimmick is she tends to have a good handful of card-related puzzles, which in itself is pretty cool. Because it's one of the things, as well as clocks, one of the other things that's universally understood is a pack of cards. And this puzzle here, Aces and the Joker, this is another one of those that gives you a bit too much information to the point where that could leave you overcomplicating it. Because really, you can discount any card that isn't either an ace or the Joker. So it just comes down to the 20% or the 1/5 chance of pulling the Joker before you pull any of the aces. Because you see all 50 cards on there and you're going to think this is going to be a full-on 52 card pickup, and you start thinking of all the possible combinations you could pick it up in, but no, if you pick up a card and it's not one of the cards you're looking for, then you just put it to one side and it doesn't matter. This is getting a little bit odd, and maybe it's because she's an older lady and Layton seems relatively quite young, but she's definitely trying to hit on him. It seems a little bit weird. That's all I can really say. She is another character where her portrait there shows her whole body. Whereas even for Luke, it doesn't do that, and it is a weird inconsistency. I guess seeing as most of the time when the character's on screen it's obscured by the text box, it's not that big of a deal, but just once you notice it, you don't unnotice it. And this seems to be taking the same kind of format as the notes that we've read beforehand, so they're possibly coming from the same person, but they are deliberately leaving something obscured. I will say I was spoiled on what it was before I played the game, but I do think that it's kind of cool how you get these notes that slowly but surely start to let you piece it together. But Luke, there's no such thing as a dead end when you can solve puzzles, right? Yeah, maybe they are scared of it because it looks like it's going to fall on them at any given moment. It looks like he's leaning back there as well as just being unstable.
What?
And who might you be?
Well, I'd rather not say. Why not? What are you hiding?
We seek access to the tower. Do you think you could help us, miss?
The tower? Huh?
Oh, wait!
Okay, so there's a fair bit to process with that cutscene, but I do want to point out one thing that I will say doesn't really sit too well with me, is how immediately confrontational Luke is there. It just seems a little bit out of character, or more specifically the fact that Layton doesn't kind of hold him back. Because, Luke being a bit forward, you can kind of get he's the young apprentice, he might be a little bit shaken, but I don't know, it just seems a little bit odd that that was just a thing that was accepted, that he just immediately goes to, why not, what are you hiding, rather than initially starting the friendly "what's up, who are you" kind of approach. I don't know, like it's just a little bit of a quirk that doesn't sit too well with me. But the new character we discovered there, you can probably piece together who she is. If not, then the fact that she's got a speaking role, it kind of tips you off immediately that we're going to see her again, whatever. But after that cutscene, we did get a ticket to the park, which tips us off that that is quite possibly the next place we'll be going. And so we've had 2 new places back to back. We had this back alleyway, and now we're going off to the park. And it does feel like they're easing us out of the initial areas that we got comfortable with now. They've let us find our way around the front end of the village, and now we get to explore some new places, which I am all for. I feel like it's far enough into the game to freshen up the locale. But with that being said, join me next time where we'll be going into the park in Chapter 7 of Professor Layton and the Curious Village.